Just go home and never visit me again. What? While I was out, I found out that my mom had fainted. When I got to the hospital, she wouldn't even look at me or talk to me. I couldn't understand why. I had been taking care of her diligently since she started using a wheelchair. Why would she suddenly treat me like this? Then when I saw the cardboard boxes my husband had brought, I understood everything. It's been 3 years since my husband Alex and I got married. We have been living happily as a couple. Alex was a kind and skilled husband who was good at cooking. But everything changed 6 months ago. My mom had an accident and became wheelchair bound, so we decided to live together. We moved to a new apartment because the place where we used to live was too small for 3 of us. Unlike our previous one, the new place was almost brand new and it was much more comfortable. Above all, there were fewer steps, so my mom seemed to enjoy the house the most. She was thrilled to have enjoyable meals again after feeling lonely living alone in her old house for a long time. My parents are divorced, and my father has not been around since I was little, so I'm really grateful to my mom who raised me as a single mother. I thought living together was a way to show my gratitude for her, and seeing her happy made me feel relieved. My mom was taken to the hospital by ambulance due to heat stroke on a day when the weather forecast repeatedly warned against unnecessary outdoor activities due to the heat. When I arrived at the hospital, the doctor told me that my mom had fainted in a room without air conditioning. We had checked the weather forecast together in the morning, so why did this happen? I wondered if my mom couldn't reach the remote control. Come to think of it, I didn't remember where I had put it after using it to adjust the air conditioning for my mom before she went to bed. Maybe it was my fault that she almost died. Thankfully, my mom regained consciousness, but when I asked her if she couldn't find the remote control, she shook her head slowly. I felt relieved, but then I wondered why she didn't turn on the air conditioning. Then why, Mom? My mom turned her gaze towards the window. Why won't you talk to me about anything, Mom? Just go home. What? She didn't speak to me or even look at me after that. My mom had always been adamant about looking people in the eye when talking to them, and she had drilled this into me since I was a child. Even when I was going through the rebellious phase of adolescence and would sometimes utter hurtful words, my mom would still look me in the eye as she spoke to me. This was the first time she had given me such a cold attitude, and I couldn't even say I'm going home before running away from the hospital. It's so hot, I thought, as I walked back from the hospital, sweat trickling down my neck one after another. I wondered why my mom hadn't turned on the air conditioning when it was so hot outside. Fortunately, this time, my mom was able to call an ambulance on her own before fainting, but it sent shivers down my spine just imagining what would have happened if my husband and I weren't at home during the day and came back to find my mom passed out on the floor. It was the right decision to call an ambulance, but I still couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't informed about it. When my mom became wheelchair bound, I had told her to call the office immediately if anything happened because I usually stayed in the office all day. I had to go back to the hospital with my mom's clothes and other things, but I was afraid I would vent all my frustrations on her if I saw her face. When I returned home, a blast of cold air greeted me as soon as I opened the door. You're back already? Yeah, I heard that your mom fainted, so I got permission to leave early. Alex was a kind husband. Even before we got married, he had proposed that we share household chores because both of us were working. He liked cooking so much that he would make curry from scratch using spices, so he cooked for us almost every day. I was already feeling bad about it, considering that I worked long hours and left home earlier than him and came back later than him. But he took care of other household chores like cleaning and laundry happily. After my mom started living with us, there were many things that I had to help her with, so I was grateful for his help. I could only feel grateful knowing that he had left work early for my mom. When asked about my mom's condition, I told Alex that she had to be hospitalized, and he just replied, "I see." What are those boxes? I had been wondering about the cardboard boxes since I came back, as there were 2 cardboard boxes placed next to my husband. I thought they were delivery packages, but I hadn't heard anything about anything arriving today. These boxes? They were folded and stored under the bed, so I assembled them. That's not what I meant. Wait, you assembled them? So they're not delivery packages? There was one cardboard box with its lid open in front of Alex, and when I peeked inside, I saw familiar clothes. Wait, huh? It was my mom's clothes. Despite my confusion, Alex didn't seem surprised at all. Since things turned out like this, let's not let her return home even if she's discharged from the hospital. Let's place her in a facility somewhere. He handed me a brochure that had somehow been placed on the sofa. She must have been stressed living with us. It's so sad that her stress kept building up until this happened. My life revolves around her now, and I'm starting to wonder why I married you. This was a good opportunity for everyone. Stress. Until we started living with her, I looked forward to you enjoying my cooking. Every day, I would think about what to make for the next day. And I was happy when you dried my hair after I got out of the bath. But recently, you haven't been paying attention to me at all. You're not just her possession. She'll understand if it's for her daughter's happiness. Although there were some parts of my husband's childish remarks that bothered me, when I heard his words that our life together had been stressful for her, it strangely made sense. So that's why my mom didn't look at me. I didn't want to believe it, and I quietly pointed out that she had fainted due to heat stroke, not stress. But he quickly retorted, "She must have been so stressed that she could have died from heat stroke." I started to feel that it might really have been the case. I was happy to live with my mom, but I didn't know that she had been stressed. I also didn't know that Alex had been feeling lonely. I didn't understand anything. Even when I returned to the hospital with things necessary for her hospitalization, my mom still wouldn't look at me. "I'm sorry, Mom. Our life together must have been stressful for you, right? That's why you didn't use air conditioning, right?" My mom listened quietly to my apology, but suddenly her body started trembling. "Mom?" I quickly went around to the window side and peered into my mom's face. Tears were overflowing from her eyes, one after another. "What's wrong, Mom?" My mom mentioned my husband's name and said something unbelievable. Apparently, Alex had been verbally abusing her behind my back, calling her a terrible mother who was interfering with my happiness. He had forced her to do household chores in her wheelchair, saying things like, "It's not like you're completely immobile and you're living in my house. Don't you think you should do some housework?" He had told her not to use electricity during the day, not to watch TV, and that using air conditioning was out of the question. He had threatened her, saying that if she were to tell me, he would divorce me. He also reminded her of the hardship she caused me as a single mother, and how she would feel if he ended up divorcing me because of her. She couldn't bring herself to speak up in order to protect my married life. "I've never once thought that you caused me any hardships because my father wasn't around. I'm sorry for not realizing that." We kept apologizing to each other while crying. Despite feeling guilty towards my mom, my anger towards Alex started to build up as soon as my tears stopped. I marched back into the room thinking about what to say to him and saw that he was busy moving more cardboard boxes. There were even more boxes now than when I left. Were there really this many belongings from my mom? "What the hell is all this?" I said angrily, pounding on one of the boxes to show my frustration. But Alex seemed unperturbed and was in a good mood. "I brought them from my parents' house." He casually replied as he peeled off the tape from the nearest box, revealing a strange ornament that I remembered seeing at my in-laws' house. Why would you need to bring something like this from your parents' house? Because my parents are going to live here from today. What? Since I let your mom live with us, it's only fair that my parents live here too. I'll still do the cooking like before, and my mom will help with housework. I can be nice to my parents, and you'll have less burden, and your mom won't be stressed. Everyone will be happy. There's no better plan than this. I couldn't contain my anger towards him, who is now using his own actions to justify what he had done. I talked to you about living with my mom beforehand, didn't I? Why didn't you talk to me even once about this? There's no way you could have prepared all these things in just one day. It's strange, isn't it? Did you do this because you have something to hide? This is my house. I don't need your permission. Alex, feeling inconvenient, said just that and then pretended not to hear anything else. In the meantime, my in-laws showed up to help unpack. I heard your mother is going to a facility after being discharged. That must be tough. My mother-in-law held my hand gently, as if truly worried. Since Alex stayed quiet, I had been determined to confront my in-laws, but I lost my momentum. It might not be the best timing to say this, but Alex had told us about living together before your mother moved in. He said he wanted to take care of us and live together once his married life settled down. We were looking forward to it, thinking of you as our own daughter. She seemed oblivious to the tense atmosphere between Alex and me, and my father-in-law had already started unpacking, so I decided to let her off the hook for now and play along with her conversation. I'm also looking forward to living with you two. I'm glad you came so quickly, but wasn't it difficult to get everything ready in just one day? One day? I received a call from Alex about 3 months ago. He said your mother was going to move into a facility as soon as you were emotionally ready, so he told us to prepare little by little. Uh-huh. He had been preparing for over 3 months and trying to harass and force my mom out, while he was trying to be a perfect son to his parents. I was surprised when he told us to come today, but he said he didn't want you to feel lonely. You know, he's such a family-oriented kid. Alex instructed his parents to come today so that my mom would have nowhere to come back to. Oblivious to everything, his mother looked happy, proud of her son. Your husband's parents are so happy. As his wife, you should be happy too. My father-in-law said to me while Alex sat there with a smirk. Where did you put my mom's stuff? I asked Alex, and he pointed at my smartphone with annoyance on his face. When I opened the message, there was a link to a rental storage company. I'll be right back, I said and left the house, ignoring my mother-in-law's worried look about where I was going at this hour. When I opened the door of the rental storage, I was speechless. My mom's belongings were haphazardly crammed into a nearby rental storage. It was especially bad with cute blankets and stuffed animals that I had bought for my mom to relax with. They seemed to have been thrown in. Alex probably didn't like the idea of my mom relaxing at home. They were not even packed in boxes and were lying on the floor. I didn't want to see his face anymore, so I called him from in front of the rental storage. You've gone too far with this. How could you call yourself a husband when you torment your wife's mother while making your parents happy? You're so annoying. If you keep saying that, we're getting a divorce. I love my mom and dad, and they love me the most. I used to love you the most too, but if I'm not the most important to you, then I don't need you anymore. Huh? Don't act like a child. Your mom won't be around for long anyway. It's great that you can live off the inheritance. It would have been easier if she had just died like that. Then we wouldn't have any financial problems or worry about disposing her belongings. I could picture him laughing at me in my mind. I was such a fool to marry him. I'll gladly divorce you, I shouted and hung up the phone. I divorced my husband without any hesitation. I couldn't bear to be with him for another day, so I immediately rented a new apartment with furniture and appliances and started living with my mom, who had been discharged from the hospital. A few days later, my ex-husband called me. "What do you mean I have to move out by the end of this month?" After all, that apartment belongs to my mom. In fact, the apartment was registered under my mom's name. We lived there with my mom because of me, so I had told Alex that my mom and I would handle all the paperwork. He had only accompanied me on the apartment viewing. Even before moving to that apartment, I had a higher income, so I was responsible for paying the rent and utilities. We had established a system where he would pay for groceries and living expenses as he helped with cooking and household chores, so it's convenient for both of us if I pay for the household expenses. It seems he had thought that I had bought the apartment. What? It wasn't under your name? I thought this house was our joint property since I thought it was under your name. Because you only take care of your mom now, I've suffered emotional distress, and I was planning to get this house as compensation with alimony. This is fraud. He continued to speak afterwards, confessing without being asked. I thought I could be nice to both my parents by kicking out your mom. Then I could live comfortably without unnecessary stress. Even though I have been doing my best for you, you rejected living with my parents. So I was planning to divorce you and take the apartment with property distribution. Just like I texted you, the house has already been sold by my mom. You need to move out by the end of the month because there are people who want to buy it and have a viewing scheduled. If you refuse to leave, I will report you for illegal occupation to the police. Don't mess with me. This is my house. Despite his absurd argument continuing, and although it's unfortunate that he couldn't see it, I said with a big smile, "All right, if you really want to live in that house and be nice to your parents, you should buy it with your own money. Go to the bank, get the money, and buy it back." After confirming that he fell silent, I hung up and blocked him. It seems he had been in debt before and had been blacklisted as he was unable to obtain a credit card when we applied for one together at the supermarket. It would be impossible for him to borrow enough money to buy the apartment. As expected, it seemed hopeless, as my mom's smartphone, which I have forgotten to set the block on, received messages from him saying, "Please help me. Let's talk again. I love you," and so on. I don't know what his parents thought after finding out about everything, but as far as I know, they dote on their son, so they'll probably find a way to handle it in the end. I don't need to worry about that guy. I tried to block him immediately on my mom's phone also, but she said, "It's fun, so let's leave it like this for a little longer." She has been drinking beer while laughing at my ex-husband's messages for the past few days. But you know, I do feel sorry for causing your divorce because I became wheelchair bound. Alex and his parents were very good to me until this happened. What are you talking about? Mom, you're the victim here. You're just a victim of that idiot's childish pride, so you don't have to worry a thing. In fact, thanks to you, I was able to divorce that psycho bastard. If I had found out about his personality after we had kids, it wouldn't have been easy to get a divorce. I can easily imagine myself taking care of the baby while dealing with Alex's tantrums and my physical and mental exhaustion. I'm always grateful to my mom.